Welcome to Simply Bitcoin, the channel that breaks down all the daily Bitcoin news, meme review, daily fails, and software releases. And today, we've got a special guest, Pierre Rochard, the man that runs the numbers. And we're going to kick it off with the numbers.
Clock Moody Dashboard.
Block height of 657,583 right now. Bitcoin price 17,816. Chain rewrite date. Yeah.
Phil, is it above of yesterday's price? Is it time for Satoshi?
It is.
It is. All right, Satoshi has spoken.
Yesterday we were at 17.6. Not that it matters, but just saying. Anyways, chain rewrite days 605. Some slip. Total lightning capacity 1,048.55 BTC.
Awesome. Great looking numbers, Phil. Phil, it's time for
the daily fail. All right, guys. So today's daily fail is brought to us by the ex-Coinbase CLO and current U.S. comptroller of the currency, Brian Brooks. This is cringe, but we're going to do this anyways. Here we go.
The other thing that China has done is they have captured more than 51% of the mining capacity on the Bitcoin blockchain, which means that the very first internet of money, which was the Bitcoin blockchain about 10 years ago, is now essentially owned by China. So as a country, we now face a geostrategic competitiveness issue, which is, do we in the United States want to own Internet 2.0 in the same way that we own Internet 1.0?
Okay. All right. So you know what? And also he happens to, he happens to be a bit of a DeFi maximalist. So yeah, we're not really going to listen to the shitcoiner, but okay. So this is very disingenuous. Okay. Because he's talking about 51% of the miners. What's important is the hash rate, and China doesn't own 51% or control 51% of the Bitcoin hash rate.
Correct. What tends to happen is that there's a concentration of mining pools, but just because there's a concentration of mining pools doesn't mean that those mining pools actually own the miners that are using them. And the reason that people use mining pools in the first place is because they want those consistent returns, right? And if you use a bigger mining pool, the probability of you getting a consistent return on your Bitcoin mining is a lot higher. But when we're going to talk about our news for today, and we're going to actually debunk a myth about this mining FUD BS, and I kind of want to get Pierre's thoughts on this as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you're right. I think that even if there was a concentration of hash rate in China, in terms of what the U.S. should do about it, I don't think that the U.S. really needs to do anything about it other than run our own nodes, which we were going to do anyway without the government telling us to. So I don't really see what the concern is. I do think, though, that the U.S. should not prevent people from mining in the U.S., right? We should have a free market. And to the extent that there are regulators or legislators, policymakers who are opposed to Bitcoin mining in the U.S., I think that they should have it explained to them that, look, we want people earning Bitcoin in the U.S. Like, if nobody's earning Bitcoin in the U.S. and there's no, like, it's an arbitrary thing, because if they're not mining in the U.S., they're just going to mine somewhere else, right? And so, but I don't really care if people mine in Mexico or Canada. Like, I'm not nationalistic about it. They should just mine wherever they want to mine, whether it's China or Soviet or Russia or anything like that.
Absolutely. Miners, they just have to go towards, the cheapest electricity cost, right? It's not about the nationalism and all that stuff. So thanks.
Yeah, and I don't think taxpayers should be subsidizing it either. Like, I don't think it should be subsidized. I don't think it should be punished. Like, there should just be a free market. I thought that's what the U.S. was about. But now everyone's like worried about geostrategic, national security, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, man. I think that guy's just sour because he's all into that DeFi stuff. But anyways, Phil, it's time for
the daily meme review.
So it's brought to us by the Bitcoin Arsenal. and it was created by our buddies at Swan. Let's check it out.
Well, I've been waiting for this moment for all my life. Oh Lord, oh Lord. I can feel it coming in the air tonight. Oh Lord. Well, I've been waiting for this moment for all my life. Oh Lord.
All right, dude, I love the meme. It was original. It was cool. But it wasn't crazy. It was kind of funny with the gorilla playing the drums and whatever. So Phil, for me, I'm gonna give it an 8.
Oh my God. All right.
What about you?
I am going to go with also an 8. And it kind of goes along the lines of, okay, so right, they have, like Phil Collins, which is like pretty recognizable, old person music, right? It's the kind
Absolutely.
of stuff my parents listen to. So it's interesting, right? It could possibly, possibly appeal to the boomers. And, the showing the charts and everything, but I don't know, could have been a little stronger.
Right, I
I
agree.
don't know what it was.
What does our guest think? And what is his score?
Yeah, I thought that I would give it a 9. I actually do think the fact that it could have been stronger and that it was kind of more restrained works in its favor. It's kind of just a laid back, euphoric vibes as we enter the beginning periods of this bull market. I thought it was very, on point.
I like it.
Here's fresh take.
I like it. I like it.
Nothing
I
about
love having guests on, man, because they always give a different perspective. It's awesome. Phil, it's time
We're trapped
for
in our silos. Sorry.
Phil, it's time for it.
The Daily News, sponsored by Crypto Cloaks.
So we were talking about this during the fail earlier, basically about this guy claiming that, it's a major national security, that there's this huge concentration of miners in China. Well, it kind of got debunked today, right? This FUD, right? So OKX mining pool flatlines after 99.5% hash rate drop after withdrawal suspension spook clients. So OKX has been under pressure by the CCP, right? And let's take a look at what Jameson Lopp had to say about this, right? And he basically said, proof that mining pool centralization concerns are FUD. If a pool starts screwing up, hash power won't hesitate to leave. And basically that's exactly what I've been touting out for so long. Even though, that there's really I would say 5 big mining pools that control the majority of the hash rate. Just because they control the majority of the hash rate, if they start playing maliciously, and if the miners that are using those pools don't feel comfortable, they feel like those pools are either they're messing around with them. A miner, all he has to do is just switch to another mining pool that's more than happy to pick up their business, right? So this FUD, right, just got proven completely wrong. What the guy was just saying during the daily fail, this news that came out today just proved him completely wrong. As soon as a mining pool starts acting maliciously, miners will just go to another pool, right? Simple as that. What are your thoughts on this, Phil?
You know what? I don't know enough about mining as I should, but I'm definitely learning a lot about it. And what I can see, at least in this particular case, again, right, is that it doesn't, people don't want to waste their resources. So what you just said before is exactly that. They are going to switch to another mining pool. Like at the end of the day, to the miner, Bitcoin is still valuable. They aren't going to cut off their own legs. It's just not going to work.
Absolutely. And I want to get our guest thoughts about this.
Yeah.
Mr.
So
Pierre.
the other part of the equation is if, let's say, there's a mining pool with a large percentage of hash rate, if they censor a transaction, then the next miner to come along will pick up that transaction because miners want to pick up those transaction fees. And then the pool won't really have any choice other than to build on top of that block and to accept the transaction as having happened. So there's a prisoner's dilemma there where it's just irrational to censor transactions anyway. And then we can get into other attacks, right? But those are even further out in terms of their practical reality. So I think that it's one of those areas that does get a lot of FUD. And in practice, though, the reality is that no miner has ever censored a valid fee-paying Bitcoin transaction. It's just never happened. So, there are a lot of theoretical problems with Bitcoin, right? But I think that it would behoove everyone to stay focused on the practical, real problems with Bitcoin, because those exist as well. And so we should focus on those, like fee estimation, for example. That's a hard problem to solve, and I don't think it's fully solved yet. And so, improving Lightning, like that's a hard problem to solve. Going after these other problems, really, what it comes down to is shitcoining, right? They use these other make-believe problems in order to rationalize the crazy decisions made by their competing shitcoin.
Roger. So yeah,
that and proof of stake and ASIC resistance, all these things, they're all theoretical problems, and it's
You mean
they're solving vapor?
You mean the perpetual energy machine?
Yeah.
AKA proof of stake. So thank you for your input, Pierre, and let's move on to our next piece of news, guys. It's kind of bullish news. I'd call this kind of bull porn, mostly anything. But there was two. This is kind of starting to fit into the narrative that we've been kind of covering these last couple of weeks, and it's Bitcoin is starting to really, really penetrate into not only, millennial influencers that have huge following on YouTube, right? Like Tim Pool, he's been covering the news, much better than the mainstream media. He's very well known on YouTube, right? And he comments about, Bitcoin hitting, and it will hit an all-time high, right? And then we move on to another, a much older gentleman, right? Which is the third richest man in Mexico, right? And he basically goes out and announces flat out on Twitter that, yes, I have 10% of my liquid portfolio invested in Bitcoin. So, man, it's so bullish. I feel like this next bull market, it's going to be so different. There's so much penetration into the psyche, right? And we've been reporting this for the last couple of weeks. We've just seen people, Phil, we reported a couple days ago, another boomer billionaire, basically saying, yes, I like Bitcoin, I like whatever. And last cycle, that would have been unheard of. And what's absolutely insane is that Bitcoin, where it's not even 20 years old, right, is being literally shilled by these guys that have made billions of dollars, and they're putting their reputation behind it. They really believe, and they're starting to see the benefit of a capped currency, right, with a limited supply. And the monetary system of it is completely, you'll know it for the next 100 something years, right? So, man, it's so bullish, and I would love to get you guys' thoughts on this as well.
So, I mean, look, I think we're just going to see more and more of these, of these billionaires and these people either coming out and saying that they've already been holding Bitcoin or accumulating Bitcoin, or they plan to start, new positions. Not to mention the fact that the back end, right, the infrastructure for Bitcoin is, this whole entire time, has been building, and it's becoming easier and easier to not only, buy Bitcoin, but accumulate it and keep it safely. And for the people that are not that tech savvy, right, you can have solutions like Unchained Capital, right? So look, it's, the runways are there and we're ready to go. So
absolutely. And just when you said that, Phil, before we move on to Pierre, sorry, I'm not French. But basically the hash rate is 10 times higher than it was in 2017, right? So theoretically, right, the machines did get more efficient,
Bitcoin's
right?
stronger.
Bitcoin is stronger, right? Bitcoin is stronger. And not only the actual hardware backing up the network, but also, all these Bitcoin companies are much more legitimate and established than they were in 2017. Like what you mentioned, Unchained Capital, like Casa, and countless others. And like Kraken, of course, And Pierre, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, absolutely. The infrastructure has gotten stronger. Kraken just got a bank charter in the U.S. in Wyoming, so that we're going to be able to be hooked in directly to the system. Now, the other part of the equation, I think, is that when you have billionaires like this, wealthy people like this buying Bitcoin, they're not going to sell at the top. They don't care. Like they're going to hold it for a long time. And Saylor said he's going to hold it for 100 years. So it's like it's a different calculus than when you have your average retail person who, when they're up 10x, that it's a life-changing amount of money, and they immediately cash out. And so for these billionaires, like they've already got the life-changing amount of money. They're just not going to sell even if it goes up 100x or whatever. Combined with the fact that I'm confident that there's going to be a Bitcoin ETF that's going to come out at some point during this bull market. And so I think that, and frankly, is MicroStrategy already a Bitcoin ETF, right? There's already GBTC. GBTC has $10 billion worth of Bitcoin already.
That's absolutely insane.
Yeah. So I think that it is going to get easier and easier to transfer massive amounts of wealth into Bitcoin. And there's just going to be, I don't know. I think this cycle is going to be different in the sense that it's going to be longer, and it's also going to go up further than we would have thought. So when I see like Tim Pool's message, or that he thinks it's going to go up a lot and then crash down to 20K. So that would be like saying that Bitcoin is going to crash down to 1,200 in, let's see, late 2016, right? Bitcoin's at $1,000 and you think it's going to crash down to 1,200 after going up a lot. Okay, so what ended up happening? It went up to 20 grand and then it crashed down to like 3,400. Mm-hmm. So even at the trough, it was far above the previous all-time high.
Absolutely.
So I think that Bitcoin will crash. Obviously, Bitcoin, assuming this is not the last cycle, which is another debate we could have. If it's going to crash, maybe it'll crash down to 80K, right, from 300K. Mm-hmm. Or maybe it'll crash down to 300K from 600K. Right. Like, so there's just no way of knowing like what order of magnitude we're going to be on when it crashes. And so that's where, like, when I see someone like Tim Pool with, concrete ideas about where this cycle is going, I think he should have a little more humility. And really, it's an argument for just buy and hold Bitcoin.
Absolutely.
Totally agreed.
100%. Some wisdom spewed out by our guest, the legendary Pierre Rochard. And Phil, there were some software releases today. No, there was a software release today. It was actually very important. Why didn't you tell us about it?
Software releases. Okay, we're going to give a huge shout out to Electrum. Okay, because new release of Electrum 4.05 is out, and they fixed an issue with the macOS Big Sur. Right, so we were talking about that yesterday. How it got put in by a competitor, and Electrum heard the news and apparently stepped it up and released today. So details of that'll be down below in the show notes.
Thanks, Phil. Shout out to the Electrum devs. You guys reacted very quickly. Yeah. And I just want to give a special thanks to our guest. His name is Pierre Rochard. You can go follow him at Pierre_Rochard on Twitter. If you want some awesome Bitcoin bullish content, you can go check out his website, pierrerochard.com. He is the lead Bitcoin strategist at Kraken. This guy definitely knows what he's talking about. And this guy's so humble that his DMs are always open for, anybody for Bitcoin related questions. Don't DM him, ask him for money, okay? But if you have some questions, definitely DM Pierre. He's a very humble guy. He is definitely a Bitcoin plebe. Guys, that is the end of the show. Thank you so much for watching another episode of Simply Bitcoin. And the price of Bitcoin is $17,730. So I reward this sweater. It says, I told you so. I did tell you so. And guys, see you on the next one. Peace out.